My name is Goel, and I'm a rising senior from West Lafayette, Indiana. Today, I'll be talking about a tool I made, PanCan Diagnosed, and how it addresses the problems of early diagnosis and personalized treatment of pancreatic cancer, or PC. But before we dive deep inside this research, I'll first introduce myself a bit. So one of the things I'm most passionate about is research. I've done 2 independent research projects throughout my high school career, the first being what I'm talking about today, and the second is a treatment for Alzheimer's, which I discovered using laboratory experiments. Not just this, but I have received summer internships through the 2020 Research Science Institute and 2020 Summer STEM Institute. I'm also an independent researcher at the University of Michigan and have had multiple internships at Purdue University related to cancer. I'm also interested in STEAM outreach, and I have founded a bunch of organizations to address this cause and make STEAM education more accessible. Not just this, but I'm interested in political advocacy and am a climate activist, debater, and public speaker, where I talk about my research and also other topics at events like these. So before we dive deep inside my research and discuss what PanCan Diagnosed actually is, we must understand pancreatic cancer. Pancreatic cancer is one of the deadliest cancers in the world, as its mortality rate is at 85%. This is because of the location of the pancreas, as it's located behind the stomach and deep inside the abdomen. This makes CT scans very blurry and hard to analyze, making the early diagnosis rate of PC at just 9%. In addition, 33% of PC patients are misdiagnosed because of flaws in diagnosis. Thus, the 5-year survival rate of PC has stayed at a constant 10% over the last 30 years, whereas we've seen prostate cancer has grown from 65 to around 98% and breast 75 to 90%. The current methods that are used to tackle PC diagnosis in literature are not much better than what we see today, because deep neural networks on CT scans achieve an accuracy of around 70 to 75%. This is because they have problems with early diagnosis, as the tumors in the CT scans do not appear until later stages, and the scans are often blurry. In addition, the heat maps and predictive models and protein assays used for diagnosis achieve an accuracy of around 75 to 80% because of problems with misdiagnosis. This is because the gene signatures and protein expression that they analyze are common across many different cancers, and the lack of specificity leads to more false positives. Thus, there were 2 major goals of this project. The first was to find specific serum microRNAs differentially expressed in PC to avoid misdiagnosis and aid early diagnosis. And the second was to create a diagnostic tool for PC through machine learning and a user interface. Now, the reason why I analyze microRNA expression instead of just general gene expression is because it's a more non-invasive approach to diagnosis, and also it's more specific to different types of cancers. Because different microRNAs bind to messenger RNA, which hinder the amount of translation and further the amount of protein production, which is different throughout the vast majority of cancers. Also, by analyzing microRNA expression, we are able to make medicine that specifically targets this expression, resulting in the positive effect in the majority of patients and furthering the field of personalized medicine. This is different from the one-size-fits-all treatment we see today, which may have adverse effects in certain patients. To achieve these 2 goals, there were 4 major phases, including the use of feature selection. The second was the construction of an ensemble algorithm. Third was the use of interpretation. And fourth was the construction of the user interface. Now, I know that many of you might not know what these words mean, but I'll be explaining them throughout my presentation. So to conduct my research, I had a total of 1,350 samples, 450 of which were PC samples, both of early and late stages, 450 were control data samples, and the 450 were other cancer samples, or cancers that are commonly misdiagnosed as PC, such as liver, stomach, and colon cancer. This data was then quantile normalized to lessen variation. In the first phase, feature selection was done in order to improve accuracy and lessen computational costs. Now, feature selection does this by narrowing the amount of features, or in this case, the total amount of microRNAs you have from 2,600 to around 200. It does this by keeping the most significant microRNAs. Specifically, recursive feature elimination, or RFE, removes microRNAs which are the least significant and keeps the microRNAs which are most significant. Using in the double RFE method constructed in this project, an RFE algorithm was used to find 500 most significant microRNAs from 2,600. Then a different RFE algorithm was used to find 100 most significant microRNAs from 500 in PC, and the same was done for early stage PC. These 200 microRNAs were then compiled together as the final data set. In the second phase, a stacking ensemble algorithm was constructed in order to aid accurate diagnosis. The reason why this was the case is because it increased accuracy, as it used algorithms such as the k-nearest neighbors, naive Bayes, neural network, and logistic regression models that differ in terms of complexity and also their dependence on the various amount of features. So in the stacking ensemble algorithm, training data, or 80% of the original data set, entered level 0, and the binary output from level 0 entered level 1. Then testing data set, or the remaining 20% of the data, entered this whole algorithm, and key metrics were calculated. This whole stacking ensemble algorithm was then applied to just PC data in order to find the accuracy of early stage PC. In the third phase, interpretation was used in order to understand the stacking ensemble algorithm, contextualize the problem, and lessen bias. So this was done by using 3 different methods, including SHAP, which used the concepts of game theory, XGBoost, which used the concepts of decision trees, and Skater, which used entropy or randomness, to find the most significant microRNAs in both PC and early stage PC from the 100 microRNAs initially chosen. So 20 microRNAs were chosen based on frequency and feature importance in each of these 3 methods in both PC and early stage PC. Next, in the fourth phase, a user interface was constructed in order to help accessible diagnosis of clinicians. Thus, this was done because clinicians don't really have a deep machine learning background, and it's hard for them to use these machine learning algorithms and technological tools. So in this user interface, all clinicians have to do is enter the patient's first name, last name, email ID, and other key information. Then they can click on Browse Dataset to find the patient's microRNA information. After doing this, they can click Test, and the data is sent back to the stacking ensemble algorithm as part of the testing dataset. As a result, the results of the patient are displayed. This specific patient had early stage PC, and you can see the key microRNAs involved. Not just this, but there are 2 other results that can be displayed, such as late stage PC and no PC. After clicking OK, the results are saved in a TXT file. Here you can see the overarching results, or the most important results from this project, which is that the stacking ensemble algorithm achieved an accuracy of over 90%, and it was higher than its individual components. Not just this, but the early stage accuracy was also above 90%. In addition, when compared to other literature, it was found that this model improves by 10% in terms of accuracy and 20% in terms of early stage sensitivity. In addition, when doing cost analysis, it was found that the cost through the microarrays will take $300 compared to the $3,000 used for CT scans on PC diagnosis today. Thus, PanCan diagnosis is 10 times cheaper through this method. Not just this, but the time taken through the proposed method to get results back is only 12 hours compared to the 24 hours through current imaging. Thus, PanCan diagnosis is 2 times faster. Even though this was true, there was one main limitation, which is that this research should be repeated with more early stage PC samples. To improve this, I'm working with hospitals to gather more private data, specifically early stage PC samples. Not just this, but this is the first study to find the most differentially expressed microRNAs in early and late stage patients, as well as in individual patients, revolutionizing the field of personalized medicine. Also, the user interface and whole method section of this project can be applied to other cancers for diagnosis and biomarker identification. In the end, I would like to thank some people who have helped me along the way, such as Dr. Clark Denny, Dr. Brittany Allen Peterson, Dr. Jean Honorio, and Dr. Inhan Lee. Here are some of my references, and thank you for listening. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me.